Hello, everyone out there in YouTube land. Thank you for joining me again. We're going to continue on reading Savitri by Sri Aurobindo. We left off Book 1, the Book of Beginnings, Canto 4, titled The Secret Knowledge, around line 595. Thank you all for joining me. Please hit that thumbs up button if you like my videos, and please subscribe if you want to see me keep creating videos and reading my favorite books. I appreciate you being here with me. Sending healing, love, and light to all. We are all one. Line 595. 595, yeah. He adores her as his regent of desire. He yields to her as the mover of his will. He burns the incense of his nights and days, offering his life a splendor of sacrifice, a rapt solicitor for her love and grace. His bliss in her, to him, is his whole world. He grows through her in all his being's powers. He reads by her God's hidden name in things, or a courier in her countless retinue, content to be with her and feel her near. He makes the most of the little that she gives, and all she does drapes with his own delight. A glance can make his whole day wonderful, a word from her lips with happiness wings for hours. He leans on her for all he does and is. He builds on her largeness, his proud fortune days, and trails his peacock plumage joy of life, and suns in the glory of her passing smile. In 1,000 ways he serves her royal needs. He makes the hours pivot around her will, makes all reflect her whims. All is their play. This whole wide world is only he and she. This is the knot that ties together the stars, the two who are one and the secret of all power, the two who are one and the might and right in things. His soul, silent, supports the world in her. His acts and her commandments register. Happy, inert, he lies beneath her feet. His breast he offers in her for her cosmic dance, of which our lives are the quivering theater. And none could bear but for his strength within. Yet none would leave because of his delight. His works, his thoughts have been devised by her. His being is a mirror vast of hers. Active, inspired by her, he speaks and moves. His deeds obey her heart's unspoken demands. Passive, he bears the impacts of the world, as if her touch is shaping his soul and life. His journey through the days is her sun march. He runs upon her roads. Hers is his course. A witness and student of her joy and dole, a partner in her evil and her good. He has consented to her passionate ways. He is driven by her sweet and dreadful force. His sanctioning name initials all her works. His silence is his signature to her deeds. In the execution of her drama's scheme, in her fancies of the moment and its mood, in the march of this obvious ordinary world, where all is deep and strange to the eyes that see, and nature's common forms are marvel wefts. She, through his witness sight and motion of might, unrolls the material of her cosmic art, her happenings that exalt and smite the soul, her force that moves, her powers that save and slay, her word that in the silence speaks to our hearts, her silence that transcends the summit word, her heights and depths to which our spirit moves, her events that weave the texture of our lives, and all by which we find our loose or lose ourselves. Things sweet and bitter, magnificent and mean, terrible and beautiful and divine, her empire in the cosmos she has built. He is governed by her subtle and mighty laws. His consciousness is a babe upon her knees, his being a field of her vast experiment. Her endless space is the playground of his thoughts. She binds to knowledge of the shapes of time and the creative error of limiting mind and the chance that wears the rigid face of fate and her sport of death and pain and nescience, his changed and struggling immortality, his soul is a subtle atom in a mass, his substance a material for her works. His spirit survives amid the death of things. He climbs to eternity through being's gaps. He is carried by her from night to deathless night. This grand surrender is his free will's gift. His pure transcendent force submits to hers. In the mystery of her cosmic ignorance and the insoluble riddle of her play, a creature made of perishable stuff, in the pattern she has set for him he moves. He thinks with her thoughts, with her trouble his bosom heaves. He seems the thing that she would have him seem. He is whatever her artist will can make, although she drives him on her fancy roads that play with him as with her child or slave, to freedom and the eternal's mastery and immortality's stand above the world. She moves her seeming puppet of an hour, even in his mortal session in body's house, an aimless traveler between birth and death, ephemeral dreaming of immortality. To reign she spurs him, she takes her up her powers, he has harnessed her to the yoke of her own law. His face of human thoughts puts on a crown. Held in her leash, bound to her veiled caprice, he studies her ways if so he may prevail, even for an hour, and she will work out his will. He makes of her his moment passion serf. To obey she feigns, she follows her creature's lead. For him she was made, lives only for his use. But conquering her, then is he most her slave. He is her dependent, all his means are hers. Nothing without her he can, she rules him still. At last he makes to a memory of self. He sees within the face of deity, the Godhead breaks out through the human mold. Her highest heights she unmasks, and she is his mate. Till then he is a plaything in her game, her seeming regent, yet her fancy's toy, a living robot moved by her energy springs. He acts as in the movements of a dream, an automaton stepping in the grooves of fate. He stumbles on, driven by her whip of force. His thoughts labors a bullock in time's fields. His will, he thinks his own, is shaped in her forge, obedient to world's nature's dumb control. Driven by his own formidable power, his chosen partner is a titan game. Her will he has made the master of his fate, her whim the dispenser of his pleasure and pain. He has sold himself into her regal power, for any bloom or boon that she may choose. Even in what is suffering to our sense, he feels the sweetness of her mastering touch. If all experience meets her blissful hands, on his heart he bears the happiness of her tread, and the surprise of her arrival's joy. In each event and every moment's chance, all she can do is marvelous in his sight. He reveals in her a swimmer in her sea, a tireless amateur of her world delight. He rejoices in her every thought and act, and gives consent to all that she can wish. Whatever she desires, he wills to be. The Spirit, the innumerable one, he has left behind his lone eternity. He is an endless birth and endless time, her infinite multitude in an infinite space. The master of existence lurks in us, and plays at hide and seek with his own force. In nature's instrument loiters secret God. The immanent lives in a man as in his house. He has made the universe his pastimes field, a vast gymnasium of his works of might. All-knowing, he accepts our darkened state. Divine, wears shapes of animal or man. Eternal, he assents to fate and time. Immortal, dallies with mortality. The all-conscious ventured into ignorance. The all-blissful bore to be insensible. Incarnate in a world of strife and pain, he puts on joy and sorrow like a robe, and drinks experience like a strengthening wine. He whose transcendent rules the pregnant vast persistent now, dwells in our subliminal depths, a luminous individual power alone, the absolute, the perfect, the alone. Excuse me. Has called out of the silence his mute force, where she lay in the featureless and formless hush, guarding from time by her immobile sleep the ineffable prescience of his solitude. The absolute, the perfect, the alone, has entered with his silence into space. He has fashioned these countless persons of oneself. He has built a million figures of his power. He lives in all who lived in his vast alone. Space is himself and time is only he, the absolute, the perfect, the immune, one who is in us as our secret self. Our mask of imperfection has assumed. He has made this tenement of flesh his own, his image in the human measure cast. To his divine measure we might rise. Then in a figure of divinity the Maker shall recast us and impose the plan of Godhead on the mortal's mold, lifting our infinite minds to his infinite, touching the moment with eternity. The transfiguration is earth's due to heaven. A mutual debt binds man and the supreme to the supreme. His nature we must put on as he puts ours. We are sons of God and must be even as he. His human portion we must grow divine. Our life is a paradox with God for key. But meanwhile, all is a shadow cast by a dream. And to the musing and immobile spirit, life and himself don the aspect of a myth, a burden of a long unmeaning tale, for the key is hid and by the inconscience kept. The secret God beneath the threshold dwells in a body obscuring the immortal spirit, a nameless resident, vesting unseen powers with matters, shapes, and motives beyond thought. And the hazard of an unguessed consequence and omnipotent, indiscernible influence. He sits unfelt by the form in which he lives and veils his knowledge by the groping mind, a wanderer in a world his thoughts have made. He turns into a chiaroscuro of error and truth, to find a wisdom that on high is his, and one forgetting he searches for himself, as if he had lost an inner light he seeks. As a sojourner lingering amid alien scenes, he journeys to a home he knows no more. His own self-truth he seeks, who is the truth. He is the player who became the play. He is the thinker who became the thought. He is the many who was the silent one. In the symbol figures of the cosmic force, and in her living and imaginative signs, and in her complex tracery of events, he explores the ceaseless miracle of himself, till the thousandfold enigma has been solved in the single light of an all-witnessing soul. This was his compact with his mighty mate, for love of her and joined to her forever, to follow the course of time's eternity, amid magic dramas of her sudden moods and the surprises of her masked idea and the vicissitudes of her vast caprice. Two seem his goals, yet ever are they one, and gaze at each other over boundless time. Spirit and matter are their end and source, a seeker of hidden meanings in life's forms, of the great mother's wide uncharted will, and the rude enigma of her terrestrial ways. He is the explorer and the mariner on a secret inner ocean without bourne. He is the adventurer and cosmologist of a magic Earth's obscure geography. In her material order's fixed design, where all seems sure, and even when changed the same, even though the end is left forever unknown, and ever unstable as life's shifting flow, his paths are found for him by silent fate. As stations in the age's weltering flood, firm lands appear that attempt and stay a while. Then new horizons lure the mind's advance. There comes no close to the infinite's boundlessness. There is no last certitude in which thought can pause, and no terminus to the soul's experience, a limit, a farness never wholly reached, An unattained perfection calls to him. From distant boundaries in the unseen, a long beginning only has been made. This is the sailor on the flow of time. This is the world matter's slow discoverer, who launched into this small corporal birth, has learned his craft in tiny bays of self, but dares at last unplumbed infinitudes. A voyager upon eternity's seas, in his world adventurer's crude initial start, behold him ignorant of his Godhead's force, timid, initiate of its vast design, an expert captain of a fragile craft. A trafficker in small impermanent wares, at first he hugs the shore and shuns the breaths, dares not to affront the far-off perilous main. He is a petty coastal traffic plies. He pays dolem out from port to neighbor port, content with his safe rounds, unchanging course. He hazards not the new and the unseen, but now he hears the sound of larger seas. A widening world calls him to distant scenes, and journeyings in a larger vision's arc, and peoples unknown and still unvisited shores. On a commissioned keel his merchant hull serves the world's commerce in the riches of time, severing the foam of a great landlocked sea to reach unknown harbor lights and distant climes and open markets for life's opulent arts. Rich bales, carved statuettes, hued canvases, and jeweled toys brought for infants' play, and perishable products of hard toil, and transient splendors won and lost by the days, or passing through a gate of pillar rocks, venturing not yet to cross oceans unnamed and journey into a dream of distances. He travels close to unfamiliar coast and finds new haven in storm-troubled isles. Or guided by a sure compass in his thought, he plunges through a bright haze that hides the stars, steering on the trade routes of ignorance. His prow pushes towards undiscovered shores. He chances on unimagined continents, a seeker of the island of the blessed. He leaves the last lands, crosses the ultimate seas. He turns to eternal things his symbol quest. Life changes for him, its time-constructed scenes, its images veiling infinity. Earth's borders recede, and the terrestrial air hangs round him no longer its translucent veil. He has crossed the limit of mortal thought and hope. He has reached the world's end and stares beyond. The eyes of mortal body plunge their gaze into eyes that look upon eternity. A greater world time's traveler must explore. At last he hears a chanting on the heights, and the far speaks, and the unknown grows near. He crosses the boundaries of the unseen and passes over the edge of mortal sight to a new vision of himself and things. He is a spirit in an unfinished world that knows him not and cannot know itself. The surface symbol of his goalless quest takes deep meaning to his inner view. His is a search of darkness for the light, of mortal life for immortality. In the vessel of an earthly embodiment, over the narrow rails of limiting sense, he looks out on the magic waves of time, where mind like a moon illuminates the world's dark. There is limed ever retreating from the eyes, as if in a tenuous misty dreamlight drawn, the outline of a dim mysterious shore. A sailor on the inconscient fathomless sea, he voyages through a starry world of thought, on matter's deck to a spiritual sun, across the noise and multitudinous cry, across the rapt unknowable silences, through a strange mid-world under supernal skies. Beyond Earth's longitudes and latitudes, his goal is fixed outside all present maps, but none learns whither through the unknown he sails. On what secret mission the Great Mother gave, in a hidden strength of her omnipotent will, driven by her breast across life's tossing deep, through the thunder's roar and through the windless hush, through fog and mist, where nothing more is seen, he carries her sealed orders in his breast. Late will he know, opening the mystic script, whether to a blank port in the unseen he goes, or armed with her fiat to discover a new mind and body in the city of God, and enshrine the immortal in his glory's house, and make the infinite one with infinity, across the salt waste of endless years. Her ocean winds impel his errant boat, the cosmic waters splashing as he goes, a rumor around him and danger and a call. Always he follows in her force's wake. He sails through life and death and other life. He travels on through waking and through sleep. A power is on him from her occult force that ties him to his own creation's fate. And never can the mighty traveler rest, and never can the mystic voyage cease, till the rescient dusk is lifted from a man's soul, and the morns of God have overtaken his night. As long as nature lasts, he too is there. For this is sure that he and she are one. Even when he sleeps, he keeps her on his breast. Whoever leaves her, he will not depart. To repose without her is the unknowable. There is a truth to know, a work to do. Her play is real, a mystery he fulfills. There is a plan in the mother's deep world whim, a purpose in her vast and ransom game. This ever she meant since the first dawn of life. This constant will she covered with her sport, to evoke a person in the impersonal void. With the truth light strikes earth's massive roots of trance, wake a dumb self in the inconscient depths, and raise a lost power from its python sleep. The eyes of the timeless might look out from time, and the world manifests the unveiled divine. For this he has left his white infinity, and laid on the spirit the burden of the flesh. The Godhead's seed might flower in mindless space. End of Canto 4. Next we'll read Canto 5, titled The Yoga of the King, the Yoga of the Spirit's Freedom and Greatness. Thank you very much for joining me. Sending out healing, love, and light to all. Todos somos uno. Muy bien. If you like what I'm reading and like my videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you like my art, let me know. Love you all. Have a wonderful day. We're all blessed by the best. Victory to the divine light. All one. I love my puppy dogs. Sweet puppy.